Each season, Guys Telling Stories seeks out fascinating people with a good story to tell. I'm Rich Douglas, and this man beside me is my co-host, Bill Easton. We're a couple of guys who love a good story. So join us on our quest to find fascinating people with a good story to tell. This is Guys Telling Stories. All right, Bill, we're back.
Hey, Rich, how we doing?
It's been too long. I feel funny, but now I feel better.
Season 3.
Season 3.
Episode 1.
Episode 1 of the Guys Telling Stories podcast.
Yep, here we go.
Bill, we took a little break. What have you been up to in the off season?
Oh boy, I've been training.
I know you've been training. You look like you lost some weight, have you?
Lost about, let's see, 22 pounds.
22 pounds.
In about 3 months. Basically just playing a lot more hockey and doing some workouts in the mornings.
All right. Well, you look great. I've been traveling all over, visiting family and friends, and we're back, and we have a great episode for you. Great guest.
Cool. Who's the first?
Our guest today is Dave McGillivray. Some people know him from being the race director of the Boston Marathon.
Woo-hoo.
But this guy has more stories than anybody else I've ever met.
Yeah, some funny, some serious.
Yeah, well, I looked him up, and he has run across the country more than once. So I can't wait to give him a call and hear some of his stories.
He's a crazy man. I can't wait to talk to him.
Oh, we're excited. So, all right, but before that, let's get to Try at Home.
Ooh, all right. Hey, Rich.
Yeah, Bill.
We have T-shirts.
T-shirt design challenge.
T-shirt design challenge. So what this is I designed a shirt and Rich designed a shirt. And this is the Guys Telling Stories T-shirt design challenge is in full effect. And you are going to help decide the winner.
That's right.
Me and Rich and I, what's proper there?
Rich and I.
Rich and I each designed our own custom T-shirt, and it's up to you to help us decide which one is better. It's mine.
I think mine is better. I will tell you about it in a second. But Bill, what does yours look like?
Oh, mine is a West Virginia tribute. It says, "Mountain Mama, take me home." Has a little logo in the state of West Virginia on it. Am I wearing it? I'm wearing it under here.
He actually does have it on. It's a great looking shirt, I have to admit. My shirt is the Carpe Diem, not Carpe Tomorrow shirt. I've got neon letters on there. It's loud. It looks awesome. And I think my shirt's better, but
if you don't know what that means, you got to visit season 1. I think we talk about Carpe Tomorrow.
Well, all these shirts are custom designed, so you can get yours and help us decide the winner by going to GuysTellingStories.com and clicking on merch.
That's GuysTellingStories.com. Click on merch. Check out the shirts.
Buy the one you think is best, and it's mine.
No, it's not.
All right, we here at Guys Telling Stories love delicious meals at home, and our friends at Blue Apron are offering a better way to cook with fresh ingredients and great recipes delivered right to your door.
This is cool.
Yeah, this is good stuff. My wife and I, we are using this right now, in fact. So Blue Apron, it saves you the hassle of grocery shopping and meal planning because they deliver all the recipes and pre-portioned ingredients right to your door. And so you can make these chef-quality meals right at home.
Awesome.
Now, our listeners get $30 off your first order with Blue Apron by going to GuysTellingStories.com and clicking on Try at Home.
What do the hosts get?
Ooh, we might get a box or two.
Okay.
I'll call you guys over. Yeah, double dates. That's GuysTellingStories.com. Click on Try at Home to get $30 off your first order with Blue Apron. All right, let's get to our guest, Bill. Dave McGillivray.
Yep.
Oh, this guy has stories for days.
I know what race directors do. Like, that's kind of what he is known for right now is he's the race director for the Boston Marathon. But it's a big race.
It's a huge race. I think if there's over 30,000 people. They have at least 2-3 waves. And, when he first started, this job didn't even exist.
Yeah.
There's
no such thing as a race director.
There's no such thing as a race director. So
too bad. I was going to be a race director.
There's still time. So I'm super excited just to give him a call and to hear his stories from first starting out and growing up to, I've heard, like I said before, he's ran across the country. He's ran, I think it was something like over 3,000 miles.
Have you talked to him before?
No.
Have you heard him talk?
We have never met him. We've never talked to him.
Does he have, he probably has a one of those Boston accents?
I hope so.
Okay.
I love Boston. We got to go up there.
Okay.
All right.
Tomorrow?
Ooh, road trip. All right, this is only the first episode. Let's not get ahead
Okay.
of ourselves. Okay, all right. Well, guys, let's give Dave McGillivray a call. All right, Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it.
Glad you could do it.
Are you just outside of Boston right now?
Yeah, north of Boston, about 30 miles north, and we're having a pre-spring blizzard right now. I'm expecting about 2 feet of snow on my front lawn. So I went out about 4:30 this morning to get my run in before it started snowing, and thank goodness for that, because if I went out right now, I wouldn't be able to see my hand in front of my face.
I know what you mean. We've had probably one of the most mild winters and I guess early springs here in a while. And now as we're recording, I think it's a state of emergency outside. You know, the schools are closed and the plows are just coming down the street every couple hours. So
Well, glad you could connect with us today because of all
Yeah,
that.
sorry, earlier I would have been on, but we lost electricity power here. I have a backup generator outside, so finally that thing kicked in, and now I'm back in business. So crises management 101 at play here.
awesome. Well, you know, Dave, we always like to send people your way so they can find you on social media or your website. So where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, the best place to reach myself and my company and see what we do and what we're all about is just to go to our website, which is www.dmsesports.com. So D as in Dave, M as in McGillivray, S as in Sports, E as in Enterprise, dmsesports.com.
Okay. And that's your business that you've been doing for a while, correct?
Yeah, I've been had my business for the last 35 years, and we've managed about 1,000 events over those years, and all over the United States, all over the world, actually. So yeah, we've pretty much seen it all in the event management business.
Yeah, that's no joke.
No, and in addition to that, I think some people may know you as being the race director of the Boston Marathon. How long have you been doing that?
This will be my 30th year. I was hired back in 1988. I was sort of titled as the technical director of the race at the time, and it sort of morphed into more of an overall operation and logistical kind of guy. And so they changed my title to race director back in 2001, and I've been doing that ever since.
That is awesome. I have been there once. My wife ran, I think it was 2 years after we met, and it was cold, and we waited for her right by the finish line, and she ran her best time ever, and she was crying afterwards. She was so happy. She got the jacket with the yellow stripes on it, and it still hangs proudly right in the closet behind me to this day.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It's funny. I travel the races all over the country regularly, and the piece of merchandise I see most often, maybe because I'm more sensitive to it, but is the BAA gear, the Boston Marathon gear. It's like literally everywhere in the running industry. So, you know, people similarly are proud once they participate at Boston to be able to let the world know that, hey, been there, done that. I've been to the Holy Grail, and I've competed in the Super Bowl, World Series, Kentucky Derby, Tour de France, all rolled into one in the running industry. So we're proud that they're proud of their accomplishment, and we're proud of them.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I think she'd love to go back again, and we've through the podcast made some friends in Boston. We'd love to make it up there just to kind of take it all in, do anything from the breweries to see the waterfront, and it's something we got to put on our own personal bucket list.
And we could start like 200 feet away from the finish line and dump some water on us and run right through that bad boy.
Yeah, she still runs, Dave. I give her all the credit in the world. She was out there today in this weather like you were, but you know, Bill and I he keeps fitness busy with sports, and I usually do some classes at the gym. So, you know, whatever works.
Yeah. Well, not everyone needs to do it or can do it. We need some spectators too, you know. So if everyone ran, there'd be no one on the sidelines cheering for the rest of us, I guess, right?
That is true.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I know you've got some great stories to tell, and I was hoping to bring the listeners, back to when you were growing up, you know, like maybe a roots story, and I think they're going to be happy with what they hear. So maybe you can kind of paint that picture for us, you know, what home life was like, family, take us wherever you want.
Yeah, well, I grew up in a city called Medford, Mass, right outside of Boston, about 7 miles outside of Boston. And, when I was growing up, I wanted to be one thing and one thing only, and that was an athlete. Unfortunately for me, I was sort of challenged in the sense that I was short in stature. So I guess you could say I was vertically challenged. And as a result, you're going out for team sports. They're always looking for the big guys. And I was not one of them. So I was always the last one cut from the team, or always the last one picked when my friends, bucked up for sides. So it was tough to make the teams in that regard. So I started to run because nobody can cut you from running.
Right.
And you just run and run and run. And that's what sort of started my running career. And then once I graduated from college, I set a goal of running across the United States. So I trained for about 4 years for that. And I ran from Medford, Oregon to Medford, Massachusetts, 3,452 miles in 80 days, finished inside of Fenway Park on August 9th, 1978, in front of 35,000 people.
Wow.
And to this day, that was the highlight of my athletic career, is doing that run across the country and finishing in Fenway. And once I accomplished that, it was just like one of those things where the walls of intimidation crumbled, and I believed I could almost do anything athletically if I put my mind to it and earned the right to do it. And since then, I've run across the country a few more times. I've run up the east coast of America. I've done the Ironman triathlon in Hawaii 9 times. I run my age and my birthday every year since I was 12. People say to me all the time, well, you've done all these different things. What's your best accomplishment? And I always answer by saying my best accomplishment is my next one.
Yeah.
Because I never want to live off the past. I always want to live for today and plan for tomorrow, set new and challenging goals, and and just continue to challenge myself.
What was your family like? Did they have a running history, or is this something that you just kind of picked up because of?
No, not at all. It's funny because I was really the only one that sort of went the athletic route. I'm the youngest of 5, and my brother works for a center for the blind. My other sister's a nurse. My other sister's a social worker. My other brother's a CFO. And facetiously, when I started directing races, people used to ask me what I did, and I would actually mumble, I'm a race director. They're like, you're a what? I said, I'm a race director. It's like, what the heck is a race director? Like, what do you do? And do you just chalk mark in the road and yell go? I don't know.
Yeah, you just you fire the gun and put up.
Fire the gun and
put up the
watch
finish
him run
line,
down the street, give him a bowl of beef stew, and tell him to go home. But that's all changed now, and because back then it was just a very competitive environment. There was only a few hundred people doing it, and now there's tens of thousands of people doing it. And for me, when people ask me what do I do for a living now, I say I help raise the level of self-confidence and self-esteem of tens of thousands of people in America. Because in essence, that's what we do now. We give people an opportunity to, have the guts to set a goal and work really hard at it and get to the starting line and answer the gun and cross the finish line and get that medal and go home feeling good about themselves. And that's the very foundation by which we all are able to gain the courage and the confidence and the strength to accomplish anything else you want in life.
Now that should be the answer to a lot of the questions why these races go on. Whether it's a 5K or a marathon or half marathon or run across the country or biking or any of that. There's a lot of these new pop-up, I guess, trendy races. They throw glitter on you and they
Crawling
put colors
mud,
on
yeah.
you. And the one now is a blacklight one. And there's one, the most recent one that I saw, they literally just set up a track in a parking lot and have a band in the middle. And I feel like it's the same person that runs all of these. I don't know if it's if they do it for the same reasons why you do it. I think it's more of a, hey, we can charge $30 and put a band up there, and we're going to make some money to do this. And I appreciate that they get the run and support in, but I feel like they use the pure idea of a race and a run to make money for themselves. Is that something that you've noticed, or is that just my opinion on some of these newer trendy runs?
Yeah, well, it's an astute observation for sure, and I can certainly, make a conscientious decision to get into that space too, and arguably, make more money doing that. I'm in it for a whole different reason. I'm in it for the health and fitness benefits, the lifestyle benefits. This isn't just about social activity for me. This is about changing lives. This is about, focusing on your health and your fitness. I'm not adverse to coexisting with events like that, because the way I look at it is a lot of times those people who participate in those events, they're doing it obviously for a different reason, but it is getting them off the couch, and it is getting them outside, and it is getting them moving. And I think once, the newness of all of that wears off, and they've climbed over enough barbed wire and run through enough fire and had enough color thrown at them, eventually they're going to say, okay, I can't do this for a living. I can't do this for the rest of my life. But I did enjoy the fact that I was able to, sort of get some exercise and get out there and meet people. And then, in my opinion, then they're going to morph over to my side of the fence, and they're going to become people who participate in 5Ks, 10Ks, halves, and eventually a marathon and maybe triathlon. And then it is going to become a lifestyle for them. So in the long run, I think it's overall helpful in just incentivizing people for whatever reason to eventually to get out there and get moving. And that's the end result.
Listening to some of these stories already, I'm wondering if people are thinking, this is a guy, he won every race he ever entered, but did you win that first race, for example? Or like, what's that memory of actually like making a change when you were a little bit younger to start training, for example, to run across the country?
Yeah, well, for me, it wasn't about traditionally crossing the finish line first. It was about just getting in the game. It was about setting goals. And for me, it was more endurance related. Mm-hmm. I wasn't always the guy who was going to win the race. I mean, I did fairly well in most of my races, but I wasn't always the first one across the finish line. But the way I looked at it is that, I was out there following my heart, following my passion. And I was able to set these personal challenges, whether it's running across the country or up the East Coast, or I did a 24-hour run. I did a 24-hour bike ride once. And I did a 24-hour swim in a pool. I swam for 24 straight hours in a pool.
Wow.
I mean, I won't tell you what I looked like when I got out of it. But so for me, it's all about setting these challenges. But you have to be realistic in doing so, and you have to earn the right to do it. When I ran my first Boston Marathon, I was 17 years old. And I had called my grandfather up, who was a supporter of my athleticism. And I said, hey, I'm going to go out and run the Boston Marathon. He said, well, I'll wait for you at the 24-mile point, because he lived right near there. Nice. And I said, okay, fine. And I took off, and I got to the hills in Newton, Mass, about 19 miles. And I went down on all fours and got taken to the local hospital in an ambulance. And then I got home and I called my grandfather, and there's no answer. And I called him again, and there's no answer. And finally, 9 o'clock at night, he answers the phone. And I said, Grandpa, where have you been? He said, Dave, where have you been? I've been waiting for you all night. And I said, I apologize. I failed. I quit. He said, nah, you didn't quit. I said, I didn't. What did I do? He said, you learned. I said, what did I learn? He said, you learned that you cannot go along and set reckless goals. He said, you had no business really doing that. You didn't train. You didn't earn the right. I said, you're right. He says, I'll cut another deal with you. And I said, what? He says, you train next year, and I'll be there waiting for you. And I said, okay, deal. Well, the next year came, but 2 months after he said that, my grandfather died. And I said, I'm going to do this next year's race in his memory. So I trained really hard, and the day before the race, I got sick. And my parents said, you can't run. And I said, I have to run. I have to run for Grandpa. So they finally let me run, but it was awful. And at 5 miles, I was ready to drop out. And then finally, where I dropped out the year before, I just kept on going and did the Survivor Shuffle. And I got through 18, 19. I finally got to 21 and a half miles. And down I go again. Ugh. So I dropped out 2 years in a row. So here I want to be an athlete, and I'm always the last one picked. I'm always the last one cut. I drop out of my first Boston, and I drop out of my second Boston, and I put my head between my legs, and I just said, what a loser. I can't get it done. And then all of a sudden, a defining moment happened, and I looked around, and all of a sudden, the place looked familiar, and right behind me was a cemetery, and that's where my grandfather was buried, in the cemetery, and there's his tombstone. And I didn't know that the cemetery he was buried in was right on the Boston Marathon course. And I dropped out right in front of his tombstone. And I said, son of a gun. He said he'd be here waiting for me. Now, he wasn't there physically, but he was there spiritually. And I felt he kept his end of the deal. So I picked myself up and I kept going. I finished the last 5 miles. And I finished in 4.5 hours, my very first marathon ever. And I said, I'm going to run this race every year in honor and tribute of the lesson that my grandfather taught me about earning the right to do this. And I've run the Boston Marathon for the last 44 years in a row. And I've run 145 marathons and never dropped out of another one other than that very first one because of the lesson that my grandfather taught me.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm a little speechless.
Yeah. We love hearing about, that motivating moment, that inspirational moment, and just knowing that your grandfather he kept up his part of the deal.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to know you were still able to finish those last couple of miles and then have been doing it ever since. That's incredible. So Dave, if we could bring it forward a little bit, after maybe gaining some notoriety for running across the country, and did you set a new goal for yourself beyond just the athletic ones, like, for example, becoming an entrepreneur or, starting your own business? Because there's a lot of listeners out there that might be interested to hear how you took these life experiences and turned them into a way to make a living and help other people.
Yeah, sure. I got a degree in math. So, I got a job working for a benefit consulting firm in the John Hancock Tower in Boston. And I took a 3-month leave of absence to run across the country. And when I got back, my boss says, okay, you finished on a Tuesday, you'll be back at work on a Wednesday. I said, well, I could have a couple of days off to kind of regroup a little bit. I'll be back on Monday. And then on Friday of that week, after running across a continent and raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for sick kids, I got a termination letter and they fired me. And I look back at that and say that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because truly I wasn't following my heart. I did get a degree in math, but that's really not the path I knew and deep down I wanted to follow. So I opened up an athletic footwear and clothing store in my hometown, and then I started putting on events to promote the store, and then I realized I like putting on events more than shoes on people's feet. And I just started developing my own business at a time 35, 37 years ago where it wasn't that fashionable to be putting on events. And but I knew then that this wasn't just about a road race. This was about something very different and like changing lives. And like I said, all about self-confidence and self-esteem. And I knew someday that people were going to get it. And here we are, 35 years from them. And races are selling out at record pace. People are truly believing in themselves. And what happened only a short period of time, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, is philanthropy started entering into the space. So people started saying, hey, I'm not sure I can do this just for me, a personal goal, but I want to do it for my next door neighbor who's sick or ill, or, do it for a greater purpose. And then people started, participating in these events, and it just took off. So, like I said, now races are selling out at record pace, and, we're talking races with 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 people in it. So that's why I've been very lucky to have a niche where I handle the operational and logistical side of about 30 events a year. And I have a whole bunch of people that work with me on all these events, and it's been a labor of love ever since.
Yeah, that's incredible, because it sounds like you got yourself into a position where you can be successful in the future, because there wasn't necessarily that same competition that Bill mentioned before with all these other types of races, but you've become basically the number one, I'm a company to go to organize a race, not just in your hometown, but all over the world. Where's like a place outside of America that your company has brought you?
I put on races in South America, Lima, Peru. I put on a marathon in Singapore, 60,000 runners in this race in Singapore. So we've been in the Caribbean, triathlons all over the place. So, I'm 62 years old now. I have 5 kids. So I'm at a point now where I'd like to stay a little bit more local, to stay close to the family. But I could travel the world anytime I wanted to, because there's such a demand for expertise in doing this. And there are only a handful of companies similar to ours that does this sort of thing, at a level that, people would want to fly you in from all over the world to have you help manage their event. So I'm very fortunate that I'm in this space.
What's the biggest? Was 60,000 the biggest race, people wise?
Yeah. In terms of field size, that one was the biggest. Boston is 30,000, and each one has its own, deliverables. Each one has its own challenges. I was asked to help put on a race over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge a couple of years ago, so we were hired to do that, and I thought they would get 3,000 or 4,000 people the very first year, and they ended up getting 20,000 in year one and 25,000 in year two. And so, again, it's big business now. You really need to know what you're doing. And now too, with it's about 3 things now, other than the event itself. It's about technology and, who has the most toys, seems to separate one event from another now. It's about medical, because so many people are doing it that the chances are higher that somebody's going to need help, in a race. And last but not least, and unfortunately, security, given what happened at Boston in 2013, now the level of security at most of these events are at a significant heightened, level. And as a result, you got to focus an awful lot on that, which is, again, unfortunate but necessary. So there's a lot to this that very labor intensive, but again, once it's all said and done, I wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, we usually like to get into like a struggle story or an obstacle one, and you brought up 2013, so I hope it's okay to ask you just a little bit about that day, because Boston came together and they overcame is something that is a tragedy that we're all going to remember. That experience being a struggle, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about how you move forward from that, because that's kind of what I'm left with. I'm remembering Boston Strong and turning a tragedy into something that, kind of pulled the entire nation together. So, how did you overcome an experience like that?
Yeah. Well, inevitably good overcomes evil. And it was really for me, the running community that came together. As soon as that happened, I thought, obviously our focus was on the victims and those who were profoundly impacted by the bombings. But in thinking about the industry, I thought, is this the end of the Boston Marathon?
Yeah.
People aren't going to want to come back. In fact, my family was actually sitting in the bleachers watching the race at the time, and my 8-year-old son, unfortunately saw everything. And after 2 or 3 days had passed, and I finally came home, he come up to me and he gave me a hug, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Dad, I never want you to direct that race again." And
wow.
it really hit me, because here's an 8-year-old boy who's associating his father's job with danger. Mm-hmm. And, it's a road race,
yeah.
Chalk mark in the road, y'all go, right? And, but no longer, that all got stripped away, in one day. And, but we're a resilient bunch, and they mess with the wrong community. And in 2014 we came back stronger than ever, and it was just epic. And we took back our race, we took back Boylston Street, we took back our finish line, and I really thought people were going to stay away in droves, and just the opposite happened. More people wanted to come here. We increased the field size by over 9,000 more runners, and that's not easy to do on this very tight course. But people wanted to come here and not be denied and prove to the world that we're going to get through this. And we certainly did. And it's funny, a few months after the race, my son come up to me again, and he said, "Hey, Dad, remember I told you I didn't want you to direct a race again?" I said, "Yeah, Luke, I remember." He goes, "You know why?" I said, "Why?" He says, "Because I want to direct it." And so even my little 8-year-old son, recovered. So, perseverance and people's will to, to not give up their freedom just prevailed.
Yeah, I've got chills right now just hearing you speak and moving us forward, past that event into like a record breaking, 2014. So that's incredible. Is your son, is he following in your footsteps now? Is he trying to help volunteer at any of these races and get himself on the walkie-talkie, tell people what to do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when he's asked what he wants to do for a living, he says race director, and I say, don't say that too loudly.
Yeah. But, I was doing a little research, and I was reading that not too long ago, you made a couple lifestyle changes too, just to keep that personal fitness and health, as best as you could. What'd you do to make some lifestyle changes once you got into the 60s?
Well, what happened was, only a few years ago, I was out running and I could feel this, pain in my chest, if you will, and difficulty breathing. And so I changed certain things. I figured, okay, maybe I'm running too early or too late. Maybe I'm in the heat. Maybe I'm in the cold. Maybe I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't know. But I couldn't fix it. So I went and had all these tests done, echocardiograms and stress tests and EKGs and everything else. And everything showed that I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. And I turned to the doctor and I said, yes, there is something wrong with me. I can't breathe when I run. And I said, you gotta look under the hood a little bit more. You gotta give me the big boy tests.
Yeah.
So they dragged me in and they gave me the CAT scan and the angiogram, and the doctor come in and he says, here and there and there and there. And he said, you have severe coronary artery disease. And I was like, what? How can I have artery disease when I've run 145 marathons, run across the country, done the Ironman? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's like telling a superhero, like, hey, you're not as super as you thought. It's like, wait a second. How am I doing this every single morning?
That's right.
With a heart disease, but
right. And so, for the first time in my life, I realized that just because you're fit doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy. And and I have a history in my family of heart disease, but I just didn't think I had it, right? And so, but it's also self-inflicted too, because, as an endurance athlete, at least at the time, I felt if the furnace is hot enough, it'll burn. Mm-hmm. And so, I broke some of the rules in terms of diet and other things. And of course, there was stress in my life. And I always thought sleeping was overrated, and that I could get away with as little as possible and get a lot accomplished in a day. But when I was lying on the operating table, I turned to the doctor and I said, I got a question to ask you. And he said, what's that? I said, is this reversible? He said, well, it depends. I said, depends on what? He said, depends on the person. I said, well, you're looking at him. He said, yeah. He said, well, you, with your discipline, I think it could be. I said, well, sign me up. So I changed everything. My diet, my nutrition, my sleep habits, my stress, and everything else. In about 6 months, I lowered my cholesterol level by over 100 points, and I lost 27 pounds, and I reversed my own severe coronary artery disease by over 50%.
That's great.
On my own, without real medication per se. And since then, my breathing problem's gone away. I've gone back and done the Ironman in Hawaii again. I've run about 10 more marathons since. And now my next goal in an athletic endeavor is next January. I've signed up to do that 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah,
wait a minute.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about this one. I haven't heard of that one. I mean, how do you get from continent to continent after running? After running a marathon?
Well, it's been going on for 3 years. This last January was the third year of this concept, and about 20, 30 people sign up for it. And you all meet in Chile, and then you jump on a Russian jet that flies you to Union Glacier, Antarctica. And then the clock starts then, and you run a marathon there. And then you jump on the plane, and you go to Chile, back to Chile, and do a marathon there, and then jump on a plane and go to Miami and do a marathon there, and jump on a plane and go to Madrid and do a marathon there, and jump on a plane and go to Morocco, do a marathon there, and jump on a plane and go to Dubai and
that's cool.
run a marathon there, and then end up in Sydney, Australia, and do a marathon there. 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents.
Okay, here's an obvious question. You start in Chile, and you don't start running in Chile.
No, you start in Chile just to meet with everyone to take a jet to Antarctica. So the Antarctica race is the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, how else are you going to get to Antarctica?
Well, I don't know. I just figured you'd race in Chile first and then go to Antarctica.
Man.
No, the reason why you want to start Antarctica, because that's the most risky in terms of weather.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to get to Antarctica and then have the weather be so bad that you have to wait a day or two. So you want to start first with Antarctica, get that one out of the way, and then the clock's ticking, and now you got 7 days.
I gotcha.
Do it all up. Yeah.
How many runners?
This past year they had, I think, 35.
Okay.
So they can't take more than 30 to 40 or something like that as part of this ordeal.
Well, I'd love to join you, but
You're busy that month?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm carrying my bags, right?
You know what? I hope they have a cool, you talked about tech earlier, a cool social media person, because that would be something. I'd want to tune into, check in on my Facebook feed or my Twitter, and just be like, hey, where are these guys today, and how are they doing? And so we'll. I want to post about that.
Yeah, that's cool.
The website is
event.
It's World Marathon Challenge. So if you Google World Marathon Challenge, there's the website. And this past year when they did it, I was following the folks. I had a couple of personal friends doing it, so I was following them as they were doing it. At the end of January is when it is. So I'm looking forward to doing it myself in a few months. So.
Well, that was kind of our next question.
Yeah.
Like, what are your future goals? And you jumped right into it. But besides that, what else do you have on the plate?
Yeah, maybe a few years down the line, or if it's something else you got on the back burner, any vision for yourself in the future.
Well, I'm like a street kind of guy. So, I have 44 Bostons. This will be 45 this year. Mm-hmm. And as you may or may not know, since I direct it during the day, I don't run it with everyone. So once the race is over, I get driven back out to the start and I run it myself. So I've been the last finisher at the Boston Marathon for the last 29 years. So I want to continue doing that. The record, if you will. And I'm not really going after the record, but just for the sake of understanding, the record is 58 Boston Marathons, not necessarily in a row, but 58. So that's done by a friend of mine, old Johnny Kelly. And he ran 58 Boston Marathons. So I'll be at 45 this year. So I got 13 more to do to catch up to him, and I'll be 75 years old by then. So I want to keep that going as long as God willing, I can do that. And then I've been running my age on my birthday every year for the last 50 years. So it gets exponentially harder because the older you get, the more difficult it is just to even run a mile. And then the older I get, I got to add another mile. So that's been an interesting challenge over the years. So I want to continue with that too.
Yeah. Like, how does that work? For example, do you take off at 7 a.m. and just sort of run till it's lunchtime, maybe take a little break, and then, run till it's dinner time? When you're running 60 miles,
I wish I could take off at 7. I usually start now about 2 a.m. And I used to, when I was younger and was doing this, I used to try to find interesting places to do the miles. But now I'm just trying to stay close to home, just to make sure nothing bad happens. So I do these 5-mile loops around the neighborhood and always come back to home base, grab something to drink or whatever, and go back out again and do it, another loop and another loop and another loop. And, basically it takes me all day to do it. But and my birthday's in August, so it can be really hot on that particular day. It could be in the 80s or so. So I want want to be safe in how I do this, so I keep it close.
I'm picturing that scene in the Rocky movies where he's training. Do any of the neighborhood kids start following you with their bicycles?
Yeah. I have people join me every now and then for a loop or two or whatever. When I turned 60 a couple of years ago, I threw a big party at the house, and people showed up at 2 a.m. and ran laps with me, and I had about 250 people run with me throughout the day, so it was pretty cool.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about that one. Yeah, that's good. Well, as we kind of wrap this thing up a little bit, Dave, any advice you'd give to somebody who is kind of just starting out in the running community?
Yeah, well, I have a motto in life, and it's called, it says, it's my game, so it's my rules. In other words, never allow anyone to tell you that you can't accomplish something that you set your mind to. For example, those who say it cannot be done should not interrupt those who are doing it. And, I think it's a lot of times I used to think that going out and doing a long run was selfish because I'd leave my family behind. And I almost feel like, geez, I'm out here doing something for myself instead of doing something for my family or my friends. And now I think just the opposite. I think that the most important person on the planet is you, and you need to take care of yourself because 2 things happen when you do that. One is you eliminate the burden of other people having to have to take care of you if you don't take care of yourself. And 2 is you're able to put yourself in a position to help those who are less fortunate. So I think the idea is to focus on yourself and take care of yourself, and that comes with wanting to run a 5K or a 10K or a half or a full. That's okay. Those are magnets.
Yeah.
Events are magnets, and they get you out of bed, and they get you setting goals, and they get you being realistic about them. And so being patient with it is key. Being realistic with it is key. And so that's sort of my advice to people is get out there and try to accomplish something. It's funny, people say to me all the time, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And, I struggle with that sometimes. Like, what do I want to be? And I was driving down the highway the other day, and I saw a billboard, and it had one word on it. And the word was accomplisher. And I said, that's it. That's what I want to be. I want to be an accomplisher.
Nice.
I just want to set goals and go after them and accomplish them and check them off the list and then set the next one. And so far, so good.
Yeah, well, keep it going. It's inspiring. I do a little like a bicycle trip every year, and last year we went with my father-in-law, and the first year he came for a couple days. He wasn't sure if he could make it all the way. We went across New York State along the Erie Canal, and this past year he stayed for the whole thing. We went from Pittsburgh to DC, and he was 67 years old, and I'm already talking to him about the next bike trip, and I'm thinking ahead. At 67, I want to be still on that bicycle, and I want to still be doing trips just like him. So it's stories like that and stories like the ones you've been sharing that are inspiring me to just keep going.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And going after those goals. People call you crazy when you say you're going to ride a bicycle across the state, but I'm talking to a guy who ran across the country. So it's not that crazy.
No,
not at all. Well, Dave, this has been incredible. I think people are going to love hearing the stories. We're going to sort of close this thing out. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe you could just tell people where to find you online again, plug that website.
Yeah, sure. It's www.dmsesports.com. That's dmsesports.com.
Absolutely, and go check them out online. You've got probably a few stories we haven't even hit on, and I know you have a book as well too,
yeah,
right?
We can talk about the book.
Yeah, those.
Yeah, well, it for obvious reasons, it's titled The Last Pick. You can find it on Amazon.com, and people say to me all the time, "What's your book about?" I always say it's about the person reading it, because everyone that reads that book can identify with the stories in it because they've been there, done that. I'm no better than anyone else. We've all experienced many of the similar things, and it's just a matter of how you overcome obstacles and how you process challenges that sort of get you to the finish line.
Well, great. It's a pleasure talking to you, Dave, and meeting you.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Thanks so much for sharing your stories. All right, guys. Until next time. All right, Dave McGillivray.
That's impressive.
Bill, yeah, what a guy. Seven marathons
In 7 days.
on 7 continents.
Yeah.
I got to check that out. That's coming up in January, so we got a little bit of time, but still, wow. And those stories about 2013 and his grandfather. Wow.
Yeah, the grandfather thing is it's freaky, but it's in a good way.
Oh, that's
Freaky.
so cool. I was like, this is the perfect story. We love this stuff. So, all right, guys, we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Hey, you know what we don't do? We don't ever ask people to, like, hey, call us, tell us, text us, Facebook us, tweet us. Let us know what you thought of it. Like, if you have comments on any of this stuff, too, feel free to message us with them.
Yeah, please do. Facebook, Twitter, Guys Telling Stories, on all social media. We'd love to hear from you.
Quick reminder, guys, we need to decide the T-shirt contest design winner.
That's
We
right.
need your help picking me with the West Virginia Mountain Mama Take Me Home Country Road shirt. Couple different color options. Cool shirt. I'm wearing it. Obviously, you can't see that, but
It looks good. I got to
thank you.
admit.
Thank you.
I
Are you
still
wearing
think-
yours?
I
No,
think
you're
mine's
ashamed
better.
of yours. That's why you're not wearing yours.
All right.
Go to guystellingstories.com. Click on merch, check out the shirts, and help us decide the winner.
All right. And also, thanks again to our friends at Blue Apron. Blue Apron is delivering fresh ingredients with great recipes right to your door, taking the hassle out of that grocery shopping and the meal prepping. So remember to get $30 off your first order by going to guystellingstories.com and clicking on Try at Home.
I'm going to go run a marathon.
Oh, you should. And fill up on Blue Apron and wear your Guys Telling Stories t-shirt while you're at it.
Boom.
All right. Well, guys, this has been a great first episode for Season 3. Tune in next week, and until next time.